Welcome to the Let's Talk About Talking podcast with your host, Adrienne Fuller, language and communications expert for kids of all ages. On this podcast, we talk about speech, language, and all things happening with your child, giving you specific tactical information you can use to help your kids talk, listen, and thrive in their academic journey.
Well, hello. I had a little cough. I want to say welcome to the Let's Talk About Talking podcast. My name is Adrienne Fuller, otherwise known as Miss A, the SLP. I'm a speech language pathologist, and I have a mission that I want to educate kids and parents on all things speech, language, and academic. And this week's episode, I'm so excited. I have, to me, in my opinion, one of the most amazing people, because she came into my life when I needed her so much. Now, I'm just going to introduce her. Her name's Amy. She is an insurance specialist, and she's joining us today on the podcast. Hi, Amy.
Hello. What a build-up.
Let me just say this. I think for me, forever, insurance has been something that I've loved and hated. And until you came to our practice, insurance was so overwhelming to me. And my suspicion is it's overwhelming to parents. And so I just want to say thank you for joining us. And how did you kind of get into this whole insurance game? I'm going to say it, guys. I think it's a game sometimes.
Game is definitely the right word.
Yes.
I actually many years ago thought I wanted to be a nurse, and then I realized I don't like blood, so I went to the clerical side of things. And I have done medical billing for way too long, like 20, 30 years in all different specialties. So it's definitely a game, and it's always changing.
Thank you for saying that. And what I want to accomplish in this episode today is kind of demystify what insurance is and what it's not, because it is no longer what I've found. It's no longer like, hey, I have insurance. Insurance will cover everything. Insurance sometimes covers nothing.
Correct. Yes. And insurance coverage for specialty office visits or therapies and such they don't pay like they used to, that's for sure.
So let's first talk about maybe some terms that we often hear that we really don't know what they mean. And so let's start with deductible. Can you tell me what a deductible is?
Yes. So a deductible is an amount of money, which is usually $500, $1,000, $1,500, but you have to pay that deductible before your insurance even pays any claims. So you have to meet that deductible every year, and once that deductible is met, then the insurance starts paying on claims.
Okay. So once I had a high deductible insurance plan, like it was $5,000, and I had a health savings account attached to it. But so are you saying that until I meet that $5,000 deductible, my insurance company won't pay anything? Is that right?
In most policies, yes, that is correct. You have to pay that whole deductible before they start paying a percentage or paying the claims.
So is what I'm paying what the doctor or the therapist is going to charge normally, or is it their contracted rate with the insurance company?
It is subject to the contracted rate of an in-network provider. So that means that if a provider charges $100 for a visit, but their contracted rate is $50, you would be responsible for $50 for the visit, and then $50 will be applied towards your deductible versus the $100 that the office charged for.
Okay. And then how do copays kind of factor into that?
Copays are a set dollar amount that you would pay your provider whenever you go. And usually they're $20, $50 copays, and you don't have to pay your deductible. When you go to the doctor's office, you just pay your copay, and that is all you have to pay, and then the insurance covers the rest. Prior to, it doesn't matter if there's a deductible or anything like that, the copay comes into play. Straight standard, that's what you owe to the doctor.
Okay. And then, you know what else is another term, Amy, that I hear a lot is co-insurance. So what's co-insurance?
Co-insurance comes after that big deductible that you meet. So you pay your deductible, you finally meet it, and then the insurance says, okay, well, we will pay a co-insurance. You would be responsible for a co-insurance, and we'll co-pay some of that as well. So they will turn around and say, that deductible, and now you owe 10% insurance. So you would pay 10% of that contracted rate, and the insurance would pay the other 90% of that co-insurance rate.
Okay. Okay, goodness.
It's exciting stuff, right?
It is. It's a lot of things. Oh goodness. There was another. I'm missing one term. What's another thing that we get a lot of that people don't know?
So insurance companies decided that they do have an out-of-network deductible.
That's it.
So you may go to a provider and they may say to you, we're not in network with your insurance. And what that means is not only do you have a deductible to meet for your in-network providers, but you will have an out-of-network deductible. It's usually higher, but you will have to meet an out-of-network. So you can still go to that provider even if they don't take are not in network with your insurance. It's just you will have to meet a deductible for your out-of-network benefits, and then process and pay the co-insurance to your out-of-network benefits.
Okay, so just so I'm clear, it's clear as mud. So because we get this a lot, like currently, if Blue Cross Blue Shield is listening, guys, we really want to be in your network because we're right now we're out of network for like a Blue Cross Blue Shield. But I find that if a parent has or if a family has a high deductible, and everyone's reasonably healthy, like you don't have anything going on, a lot of times, if you have a high deductible anyway, you're going to be paying about the same either way. Would you find that? And if I'm wrong on that, say, Adrian, you're wrong. Because
I believe that to be true, right? If you have a high deductible, yes, you're going to be paying a lot of out-of-pocket costs yourself.
Okay, so I'm all tense from this subject. Like, usually I'm like pretty free flowing, but even thinking about it, Amy, and talking about it makes me a little nervous. And so when parents call, or if like you're a parent and you're listening and you're saying, hey, I want to use my insurance plan, but I don't know where to start. Is the parent actually calling the insurance company themselves? Is that where they should start? In your opinion?
I believe so, yes, because the insurance policy that a person has is a contract between them, possibly their employer if they have their insurance through their job, and the insurance company. So we are a third party. I do always tell parents to double check their insurance policy because the insurance isn't necessarily required to tell the provider the correct information. But it is a policy between you and your insurance company. So I would definitely start at your insurance company, and they would be able to tell you exactly what your benefits are, so there's no surprises or anything like that. Many times the insurance company will tell a provider something, and it might not match the policy benefits for the parent. So when parents are practice and I verify the insurance, I always reach back out to the parent and say, hey, this is what your insurance company is telling me. Does this sound correct?
Wow.
It's not always the same.
But you know what? I was going to say, really, I'm so surprised. But I remember once we did, and I don't even know if you were with us yet, but it was literally, I was trying to do billing and insurance, and that was really the biggest mess of all. Because, as Michael Jackson said, I'm a lover and not a fighter. And I was like, I just want to treat kids. I don't understand this. But I found that the insurance company was telling the parent one thing, and then they told us something totally different. And it was like we were just trying to figure out the right answer. And of course, if you're paying money as a parent or a family member for a plan, you just want what you feel is owed to you. But guys, and I want all the listeners to know, on our end, we just want, because we've already provided the service, we want what we think is coming to us. So it's always like really cool when we can all kind of work together and kind of get on board with what you're going to be paying and what's coming to us. Right?
Correct. Yes, yes. And there have been many a times when I have to conference, not so much in our practice now, but I do have to conference with the patient or the parent of the patient and the insurance just for them to make sure they match what they're telling both of us as well. That's why when you started off saying the word game, that's exactly correct. Mm-hmm. Insurance game is, we're going to tell you you have a lot of benefits, but in reality, we're not going to pay the provider. So sometimes you do have to get on board with the insurance and or the doctor's office and just make sure everybody is on the same page. Mm-hmm. And anytime you contact the insurance company, there should always be a reference number given, because that reference number will flag the phone call that they record of the conversation. And then they're liable to what they tell you.
Ooh, great tip. So be sure to get the reference number. Now, Amy, I find that in a lot of plans, especially when there's therapy involved, many commercial plans give a number of visits that a child can be seen for specific therapies, speech, occupational. I'm not sure about ABA so much, but especially for those physical therapy. Once that number of visits is met, is it possible to get more visits? Or in your opinion, is it better for us to kind of try to shape the plan according to the number of visits that we're given?
Again, it's twofold. Mm-hmm. Some insurance policies have what's called a hard max. A hard max is, we're not giving you any more benefits no matter what. Mm-hmm. You can have all the medical need, all the medical rationale, but this is a hard max, and we're allowing you, like, say, 20 visits per year. Mm-hmm. If you have a soft max on your plan, that means if you max out your visits and you still need the care, then the provider can usually send in the medical reasoning, the medical record, whatever it is, to show why you need to surpass that soft max, and they will go in and approve more visits because of the medical need in the documentation.
And I know this to be true because we had a patient specifically, and I was like, we're not going to get this. But the family and our office worked together, and we got that kid visits for an entire year, like 2 times a week, which is like 50 or 60 visits when you kind of add it all up. And it did get approved, but it was a lot of going back and forth, and depending on the provider and the time that they have, because when you take insurance, it is a very time consuming effort to get paid, to get the authorization. So if your doctor's office feels like they are unreachable, or your therapy provider, it's not on purpose always, right? It's just because we are so busy. Like, I've seen you on hold with the insurance company for over an hour trying to get the answer. So it's not like we're just up in our high towers like, oh, we just don't feel like doing it. It's really a labor-intensive thing, right?
It is. And insurance companies do not make it easy. No. They always route you to a different representative. You can't seem to speak to the same person you spoke to before. Mm-hmm. So yes, sometimes hour-long phone calls to the insurance company is a daily occurrence. Yes, it can be.
Um, let's talk about changing jobs. A lot of times, parents will change jobs, or they'll get a new job, or they'll change plans. And so, what are some things that you should ask your employer or the insurance company you're thinking of switching to before you make the change? I highly recommend, before Amy even starts, let me just say, if you change insurance plans and you love your provider, you love your doctor, your pediatrician, you love your therapist, run it by them first to see if they take the plan. Because I found that, like, parents make these changes, they give us no warning, and then we're like, oh, I like, until after the fact, and then we're kind of like trying to figure out, like, do we take the plan? Is it so? If, and I know, parents, that you're busy, but running it by all the providers that touch your child is huge. Yes.
Yes, if you are able to pick your own plan, like if it's not one through your job where the employer picks it out, if you are choosing a plan, I highly suggest to contact each provider, like you said, that sees your child or you, and specifically ask, do you accept this insurance? Because you're going to want to know. A lot of behind the scene things at a provider's office are like authorizations that are required, referrals that are required. So it's not just, oh, I switched my insurance last month. Providers need to know that to make sure they're getting authorizations updated to the right carrier. So for sure, most important, let your providers know and ask them if they are a network. Beforehand is always better
Yes.
than after you need to change, definitely. And then you can get the most information. Some insurance companies allow more, like, say, therapy visits, length, time, frequency than other insurance companies. So if you're specifically wanting, let's just say, like a Medicaid plan that has a higher frequency for therapy, whether it's speech, occupational, anything, then you might want to check with your provider, because they work with these insurance companies, so they'll know, hey, these insurance policies offer more therapy than these insurance plans.
You know what? That's a great segue to Medicaid, because I personally believe for therapy and getting, there was actually a story on NPR about how Medicaid plans are really great plans. As far as that goes, Medicaid's a great source. If your child has access to it, it's a great source to get them the services that they need.
Yeah.
But there is more red tape involved sometimes. Sometimes I find Medicaid plans to be a little easier to work with than our commercial plans, to be quite honest. Do you find that at all? In different ways.
Easier sometimes, just because it's very standard.
Yes.
So just a government plan, it's standard. It's, you follow these rules.
Yes.
And life is great. But coverage varies actually from Florida Medicaid plans.
Yes.
Simply CMS and stuff like, they all have their own allowed amount of therapy time.
Yes.
So even though Medicaid can at times be easier for parents and the doctor's office, because it's very set forth and standard by the government, there are still plans that offer better care for your needs or your child's needs that the government doesn't tell you. This plan was, your child needs all these services. This plan might be better to go with than this. They don't tell you those. They just say, we cover it.
Yes, and it is your right as a parent to change your child's plan if you feel like it's the best thing for them. If you happen to be a foster parent listening to this, or an adoptive parent, many of our kids in the system come with plans. And I always say, if someone is new in your care, it's always great to see your local speech, occupational, early interventionist, if applicable, just to kind of sign off and say, hey, we're on the right track, or hey, we need intervention.
Yes, And the good thing is that commercial plans and Medicaid plans, at least in the state of Florida, all allow for those evaluations to kind of see where the child is at, whether they qualify for therapy or not. Having an evaluation is something that is covered by all the insurance companies, commercial or Medicaid.
Absolutely right. And you can never go wrong with a baseline. So thank you for bringing that up, because for any parents, because we preach this all the time, I highly recommend like not to wait and see just to see. So if you have a feeling in the pit of your stomach and you're like, are they talking as much as they should? Or is this normal for them to be doing? Go ahead and talk to your pediatrician or make the appointment, because it's covered in many cases. Yes, it's a covered service. Before we get off, I do want to circle back to two more terms, authorization and referral, because if you're going to use your insurance plan, many times we will need one or both of those. So what is a referral and what is authorization?
So a referral is something that's usually issued by a primary care. It can be issued by other specialists if needed. But yes, a referral is just saying like, hey, I'm a doctor. I see these red flags. I'm going to refer you to somebody who, for instance, I'm a primary care doctor. I'm going to refer you to a speech therapist so you can be evaluated, because I'm not quite sure if your child's where they need to be. But I feel like going to a professional in the speech world and having them evaluated, then we'll know the baseline and where your child at. So a referral is something the medical doctor just sends over a form. It can be emailed. Sometimes they give it to you. Sometimes it's on a patient portal, whatever. It's just something saying, hey, I'm the MD, and I'm saying, yes, they need to go to this. And most insurance companies, since like speech and occupational therapy are both considered specialties, they do require a referral, just saying like, hey, the MD recommends I go here. And then the authorization comes into play. And most of the insurance companies will require authorization. So not only is your primary care saying, here's a referral, please go see a doctor, but then that doctor's office says to the insurance company, hey, this MD is referring this patient to us and we need authorization to see them. And then they issue an authorization and whatever terms it is in your insurance, or guidelines for the insurance, and then they'll give you the authorization, and then you can be seen there.
If you get a referral, parents, I do want to say every office is different. Many doctors' offices will fax us referrals, but I always want the parent to also give us a call to start the process. If we get a referral, we don't reach out to the person. So if you're at a doctor's office and they give you a referral, I still think it is up to the patient to start the process of saying, hey, I have a referral. Let's get this process started.
And I agree, because you being an advocate for your own health or your child's health, a doctor might say, I sent a referral to this office, and they might be an hour and a half away from you.
Yes.
Or they might not take your insurance because the primary care doctor's office does not necessarily look at that information. They just do their part and say, here's the referral. So if your doctor does say, I'm referring your child or yourself somewhere, definitely make sure you have a copy of that referral in some way, shape, or form, because you might find a provider closer to you, or that you've already been to, or that comes highly recommended, or all these other factors in there. Yes. And then having that referral allows you to go where you need to go for your best care.
Great point. Just because a doctor sends a referral to an office doesn't mean you have to go there. I find a lot of us look in the insurance website or their provider directory. But for me, I always recommend a parent to just Google therapists in your area or ask your friends who they're going to and call that office directly and say, hey, I've heard great things about you. I mean, you don't have to say that, but you just say, I'm looking for, I'm looking for therapy services. Just tell the truth, the truth. But you can say, I'm looking for therapy services. Do you accept blank plan? That's a far easier way than getting on the phone with your insurance company, being on hold, you're at work, you're trying to do laundry or whatever you're doing, trying to get the answer, where I just find it easier to call them directly.
Correct. Most offices do know who they participate with, or they should. Their referral person should. But yes, picking up the phone, saying, hi, I'm interested in your services. Checking for a website, you can make sure that that practice takes your insurance, or anything like that. Definitely, you have to be an advocate for yourself and for your health, or your child and their health. And I'm going to say most of the time, parents know their children way more than their doctor knows their children.
Truth.
I know my children's needs way more than their PCP does. And sometimes you really got to fight or press firm and remind that primary care doctor, like, you work for me.
Yes.
And not just go by necessarily what they tell you, but really advocate for yourself or your child and say, hey, they really need to. And in reality, a referral to a specialist it's nothing more than a doctor's signature. So it's really easy, but I do find even in our practice, sometimes I'm telling parents that they have to fight with the PCP to get a referral.
Right.
And then, again, if you're a parent, you feel like you know your child's needs, or you know what answers you're looking for out of questions to doctors. And you advocate for yourself or your child for that referral, and they should give it to you. And if not, you can always find a new doctor.
I will
listen to you.
Absolutely. I really agree. We still, to this day, as hard as we fight to educate the community and parents, find a lot of parents still come to us at 4, when their child is 4 or 5, saying, my doctor told me to wait. And this is not a slam against doctors, because I think they have their own set of, like, they're trying to figure out who your kid is in like 5 to 10 minutes. So I'm saying you do have to sometimes press and be that squeaky wheel. And like you said, be the advocate for your child. And so please do.
Again, I wasn't trying to knock the primary care.
No.
They see a lot of different things.
Totally.
But they're not specialists.
Correct.
They don't know as much like you do, Ms. A. They don't know that kind of information. How many words should my child be saying at this age, or stuff like that. But you can generally say, I feel like my child is a little slower compared to brothers, sisters, daycare, kids, whatever the case may be. And then all that doctor needs to do is say, you're concerned, I'm concerned, let me just write you a referral. And then they will go ahead and issue out that referral.
That is correct.
And then you can go to somebody who specializes in that field and learn. Are you on track? Is your child where they should be? Yes.
And absolutely. I only say that about doctors because I feel like in our field in general, all I hear is like the pediatrician said that. So I want to just be sure that I don't always drag them down, because I'm always trying to, we're all a team, but your point is valid. They work for, like, we work for parents, like the parent is our client. And so your point is very valid. And I love this conversation. I feel like it's brought light on what I feel to be a confusing subject. Before we sign off, I am reminded that we do have a lot of one-parent households, parents who are co-parenting, and we do want to just give a friendly reminder when there are 2 insurance plans at play, you got to pick the one that you want the provider's office to bill, correct?
Well, if there's 2 insurances, technically you don't pick one. They should, if you have two insurances, the insurance companies are supposed to work together.
Oh, okay.
And decide who would be primary and who would be secondary. There's actually something called a birthday rule, and if both parents have insurance on a child, then they go by the birthday rule, which is like the older parent birthday is
Really?
the primary, and then the other coverage comes in as the secondary, except for if you're dealing with anything that's government related. There's Medicare, Medicaid, TRICARE, anything, not necessarily TRICARE all the time, but they will become, government's going to pay last. So any policy that you have from Medicare, Medicaid, anything like that, it's going to be a secondary policy. They're not going to be the primary policy if you have, say, Blue Cross Blue Shield. But if both parents have like a commercial Blue Cross Blue Shield plan and a United Healthcare Blue Cross or United Healthcare insurance plan, then technically the insurance companies are supposed to work together, and there can only ever be one primary insurance and then the secondary insurance.
Ooh, that's a good.
People know that.
Yes.
But yes, that's actually in the insurance world. Only one is primary.
Oh.
And 9 out of 10 times, they're going to the insurance will determine that. There's a lot of factors, whether it's a retirement plan, whether it's from an employer, but generally, if there's two commercial insurance plans, there will be one that's primary. They cannot both be primary.
Oh.
And if they are listed as both primary, in my opinion, as the insurance policy holder, you should get it fixed, because sometimes claims don't get paid because both insurance companies are saying, I don't know who's primary, I don't know who's primary. And then you get stuck either paying for services because your insurance cannot communicate, or a higher amount, like a higher copay or something like that, because it was filed to one insurance and not the other. So I say, yes, make it right. And if there's two primary insurance policies, it is best to contact and say, hey, I have another insurance policy on my child from their father, from their mother, from their other source that's not living with me. And then the insurance companies will work together and determine who's primary and who's secondary.
Wow.
Or sometimes it can be the same carrier, like a United Healthcare, and both have you listed as two primary policies. And that's kind of an error in the United Healthcare. They could go in their system and correct that. But sometimes that'll take a phone call to the insurance company as the policy holder to say, hey, you guys have two policies. Can you fix them so that way you pay? Because again, a lot of times both insurance companies will say, it's a coordination of benefits issue, meaning we can't coordinate benefits with a secondary. We don't know who's primary. So anytime they send out those annual papers in the mail to you and say, is there other insurance coverage for the year? And you throw them away like I used to do. Don't throw them away. Actually fill them out and say, yes, there's other insurance, or no, there's no other insurance. And all your claims should run a whole lot smoother getting paid.
Oh, maybe people throw them away because they think they want to reduce benefits or something, but they're really just trying to get the information, right?
Right. And a lot of the insurance companies actually use that at the beginning of the year, and they'll say they won't pay claims. And they'll just say, it's a coordination of benefits issue. It's a coordination of benefits issue. We don't know if there's other insurance or anything like that. And you just want your file complete at the insurance company saying, I did what I needed to do. I told you I had this insurance. This insurance is primary. This insurance is secondary. And then they'll process your claims, no problem.
Wow. So good. This was so informative. I hope everyone that you learned as much as I did. I think we're going to put a form on our website for parents. You can look at www.speechbuilders.org under the resource tab. We'll have to put some kind of questionnaire or something they can take to the doctor's office to help them navigate this process. But Amy,
yes.
Thank you so much. This was amazing. Guys, thank you so much for joining me. Amy, thank you for joining me. I hope you guys have a great day. Bye.
Have a great day. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to the Let's Talk About Talking podcast with your host, Adrienne Fuller, language and communications expert for kids of all ages. You can grab Adrienne's book, 30 Days to Get Your Toddler Talking, on Amazon or at speechbuilders.org.